Sky championed the art of annoying customers, as well as making it nearly impossible to leave. So much so that it triggered an Ofcom investigation. But in an ideal world, your customers shouldn't be scrambling to get away from you, and the government shouldn't have to step in to let them escape. Now, the polar opposite of that is where customers love what you do for them, so much so that they advocate on your behalf to help you gain more customers. So enter the world of B2b Customer Advocacy. It's been gathering pace in recent years, and leading players in the B2B world are reporting major successes from having developed their own custom advocacy programs to both retain customers and, crucially, drive growth. B2B Customer Advocacy, regardless of your size, needs to be on your radar if growth is what you're after. Hello, good afternoon. My name's James Rostance, and this is the 414 Live. Live and exclusive here to LinkedIn Live each and every Thursday afternoon. And the show is for you if you're a professional B2B marketer, whether you work in-house at a company or agency side at a B2B agency, or indeed if you are a company executive with a hands-on role in your company's sales and marketing endeavors. And the purpose of the show is for you to expand and enhance your professional knowledge so that you can do better in your job and deliver better results for your company and for your clients with each and every episode as I interview some of the greatest and most interesting minds in B2B marketing. So on the lineup today, we're going to be diving into the world of pioneering customer advocacy in the world of B2B. B2C do it really quite well, but it's fairly new to B2B. But as I mentioned just now, there's several companies who are doing incredibly well in this field. So to explain about the topic in more detail and for you to give you that extra insight that you definitely need this afternoon, please welcome all the way from Portsmouth in Hampshire, Mr. John Ashley.
Hello, James. How are you doing?
Good, thank you, and thank you for joining me for the test run of doing the show just a moment ago, because we did have some slight technical problems, but now we're definitely here, and viewers, we're not going to disappear this time. So there we go. You're very patient. Thank you very much. Well, look, so you're majorly into the world of B2B customer advocacy, and you're the customer advocacy global manager for Sage. So to set the stage for everyone, could you explain in how you like to describe it exactly what B2B customer advocacy is?
Sure. Customer advocacy takes many forms, okay, but in its kind of own discipline, it's really been broken out of the marketing mix. And in the last kind of 10 years, it's taken on a kind of a much more prevalent form, in the sense that any self-respecting business is embracing customers because they are so much more empowered these days to make their own decisions. They have a lot more information at their disposal, and also they advocate on behalf of brands. So if you think about me and you, for example, we are probably constantly advocating for brands every single day through what we do. Sometimes we don't even know we're doing it. So in its slightest form, customer advocacy can be a word of mouth recommendation. And in its greatest form, it can be something, quite pervasive, like a customer video, a success story, or to some degree, even reviews. Now, from a business perspective, customer advocacy is growing, and more and more businesses are taking advantage of the fact that customers are really driving preference in the market and, above all, trust. And that's what customer advocacy is about. Nice.
So what are the real world benefits of customer advocacy?
I think the main benefits really you can get from advocacy is where you get a lot closer to your customers. Customers today want to feel emotionally engaged with the brand. They don't just want to have a transactional relationship anymore. Mm-hmm. And when you think about how customers have evolved, they have access to information. They are skeptical, right, of marketing material. I hate to say it, but they are. Everyone's skeptical of marketing material. And these days, advocates, when they're talking about your brand, okay, they will advocate for you if they like your brand and they're a super fan for your brand. So if you think about the real world benefits you can get, if you harness the power of your advocates, they can do things for you that you may not have considered doing with them before. And I'll give you a really simple example, just simple A/B testing. So you have a group of advocates who can actually look at two pieces of content for you and help you decide which is better, and even invite them to help you write that content. Now, that's really powerful because customers then all of a sudden are helping you to devise content they know their peer network will enjoy and consume. And the more they feel appreciated, the more they feel involved, the more you will get from them. And there is a stat out there to say if you can keep an advocate, for the lifetime of the product, you're going to generate about 20 times more value from keeping that advocate, and they become more loyal. Advocates, another real good value about advocacy is advocates don't argue over renewal prices. They tend to be more eager to hear about your upsell and cross-sell opportunities. So whilst they're doing acts of advocacy for you, they're also less resistant to actually being taken down a sales track, if you like.
So what would be some of the tangibles there as to why they wouldn't, for example, argue with renewal price?
I think it's because advocates feel more loyal to your brand, okay? Because if you're doing more with them, you're showing them a different side of your business. You're showing them that you do actually care. And this is one of the greatest things about advocacy, is it's very easy for customers to go elsewhere. But when they feel that they're part of your business, they're part of your brand, they're emotionally engaged with you. Let's face it, right? People buy from people they like. That's an old kind of sales proverb, if you like, that's been around for eons. But it goes further than that. Marketing now has a responsibility to make sure that advocates, those who really love your brand, are engaged with you. And they will do lots and lots of things for you. So tangible things. If you think about the world of references, and when I say references, I'm generally talking about plugging a advocate into a sales opportunity. So this is where an advocate who loves your brand, uses your product, will talk to a prospect and help to actually close the deal. So a tangible the tangible evidence on that is that you can actually see that they're delivering real revenue to your business. And then, of course, on top of that, you've got, other tangible elements such as, how many reviews you have, and how many advocates have written positive reviews about your brand. And reviews is such a massive part of a business's kind of focus and makeup now, because like you, James, and me, if I'm buying something, I'll go and read a review.
Yes, they're very much the go-to point. In fact, I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that they're, amongst the top two, right, of touch points that customers use to help inform their purchase decision.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in terms of managing advocates for your company, how do you actually do that?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think everyone or every company has some form of advocacy program, and it could be something as small as a group of customers who are involved in an advisory board, for example, providing real world feedback to you about what they'd like you to see develop in your solutions or your platform. But on top of that, you also have other ways of engaging those advocates as well to do other things for you. And the main challenge you're going to have is there's usually pockets of these advocates all over your business. And it's really hard to manage. How do you know which advocates are delivering value? How do you know what advocates you have within your business? And of course, are they being mobilized? Are they being asked to do things for you? Now, I'll be careful here because sales guys, are my best friends and bread and butter. But what salespeople do is they tend to keep that group of advocates to themselves because they're doing a great job for them. They're helping them sell. Now, what we need to do is think about that in a wider element, that if you had all these advocates in one place and you had them in an easy to administer platform or program that was being administered by a small, group of administrators, it's a lot easier to manage them, and it also protects them from being burnt out. One of the biggest challenges you have with advocacy is the continual ask of a single advocate, because what happens is they become jaded, they become tired. You need to manage that really, really carefully. So, you have a super advocate who is, so engaged with you. It's very easy to burn them out. And that is not the place you want to go.
I can totally appreciate that, actually, because if you've had, thinking from the customer's point of view, that if you've had a great experience with the company and you've said to the sales team that, yeah, sure, put me forward if you want me to speak with someone and let them know what it's actually like, happy to do that. But that happens 2 or 3 times, or maybe more than that. Yeah, you're right. That's when it gets tiresome. Is there a number, actually, that you can put to this, or of how many times a person is reasonably willing to honour that offer of advocacy on a random basis?
I think there's a number of things you can do. Okay, so if you don't have a fully fledged program, there's nothing really in it for the customer. Okay, apart from thank you, apart from, just a bit of goodwill, et cetera, et cetera. The idea behind having a fully fledged program is that you maintain a degree of control, but you bring all those advocates together. So you have safety in numbers in some respect. And if you think about you're an advocate for a brand and you're asked constantly, day in, day out, will you speak about this brand? Will you speak about this brand? Sooner or later, you're going to turn around, James, and you're going to say, I've got my own business to run and I'm doing my own thing. I really can't spend all my time doing things for you. And you're kind of in danger of really exploiting that relationship. And that's something we want to avoid. So by having a program and all these people in one place, it means you can effectively manage it. But the other side of that is those asks start to become voluntary. So what happens is, rather than asking one person to continually do this job for you, what you do is you go to a group of people and they come back to you and say, yeah, I'd like to do that. I'd be up for that. I'll help you out with that one. Whereas some of the advocates who may have done that 10, 20 times in a year may think, do you know what? I really need to focus on my business, so I'm not going to do it. I'm going to decline that offer. And that's the difference. That's the difference between having a manual approach and having a programmatic approach, where you bring all those advocates together, because that army, if you like, when you mobilize that army, you'll get really significant results, and that's what it's about.
Well, in that case, that very much begs the question, what do you do then? How do you make it worth their while so that you don't have this don't call me, I'll call you kind of situation? So yeah, how do you do it?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think, you can go one of two ways with this. I think the first way you can go with is if you have a manual program, it's very, very difficult to kind of think about how you can get an advocate to do something for you. So the strategy that we adopt, and it's going to sound really simple, but we put a gamification strategy in place. And that means that every time an advocate does something, they can earn points. Now, it sounds really simple and it sounds really silly, and I often get remarks, who's going to do that? No one wants to do that. But if you think about what you do today, I guarantee every site, every business site, or every kind of social site you go on, there is a gamification strategy behind it. And that's because what they're doing is they're encouraging you to undertake those acts of advocacy. And this is kind of where we start getting into the whole subconscious approach. So what we do with our advocates is we present them with something we call a challenge. And within that challenge will be a specific ask. And it will say, we have a customer who wants to talk to you because you operate in this industry, in this country, you have this about you in your persona. We think you'd be ideal. Now, what the challenge will do is it won't just go to that single advocate. It will go to a group of advocates, but it looks personal. Okay, so that's factor one. The second factor is when they undertake that act of advocacy, we award them points. Okay, so we award them points for saying thank you. And when they build up enough points, there's a rewards catalogue that we have, and it's full of all sorts of wonderful Sage branded goods. Typically stuff, we might give out at shows and events, like a branded top or a branded mug or something. But the advocates love that type of stuff. So what they do is they're eager to build up their points in order to exchange them for a reward. And that's the way it works. It's that simple.
What's the? I've got to ask. What's the number one thing that your advocates like to go to? Go for. I'm going to guess a hoodie, but.
We do have some lovely hoodies, but the number one thing that's going for at the moment, and this is probably to do with the time of year, is actually a woolly hat. So that's the one they're going for. So.
Right. Points mean prizes. Yes, you that expression needs bringing back. Okay. So...
Yeah. I was just going to say that on that particular piece, that there are rules around it. Okay, it sounds very blasé for me to say yes, you can garner rewards. There is a management piece behind that, and it's really important that you take that into account when you are rewarding customers for doing things. And you have to adhere. One of the tips I would give is you have to look into a country's kind of rules around value and things like that. The type of things that we have, James, are low value but desirable, and that's the difference.
Yeah, as soon as you said that, then I thought, oh yeah, you're then hopefully avoiding any complications with the Bribery and Corruption Act, which is a
absolutely
scary sounding piece of legislation, isn't it? Yeah. Good point. Well, in fact, you know what? That would link in very nicely to my next question, which is, what are the key mistakes to avoid? And I imagine being arrested is one of them. Yeah, for bribery. But what other mistakes are key to avoid in building successful B2B customer advocacy programs?
I think probably the biggest mistake to avoid is over-promising and under-delivering. And I think, that's a massive part. A program takes time to build. Okay, you can't expect massive results, only after launching your program, 3 months, after 3 months, for example. We have metrics in place and measurements to say we don't expect any tangible benefit for at least 9 months. And the reason being is because when we start bringing advocates into our program, there's a journey that we want to take them on. So we're doing nothing really different to, say, a sales cycle. We're taking them through a nurture journey, but it's a nice friendly nurture journey. We want to get them used to the platform. We want to get them to understand, the asks. But also the single other biggest mistake that the advocate marketeers will make is putting too much business emphasis on their platform or in their program and not having the fun element, okay? Because that's really important. You have to have a balance between the two. Otherwise, it just becomes a constant ask of your advocates to do things for you. And that's not what an advocacy program is about, okay? If you think about building relationships, what I'm trying to do is get closer to my customers. I can't get closer to my customers if I'm just asking them to do stuff all the time. So there has to be a degree of fun in there as well.
Is there some sort of ratio to do with that then of, for example, 3 parts fun, 1 part business? Is that how, is there such a thing?
It really depends on who's in your program. And I think that's really, really important, because if you don't know who's in your program, you can't achieve that balance. And what you'll do is through the workings of your program, you'll see a propensity. Okay, you'll start building up a propensity model that shows you where customers like to spend their time. The more they enjoy your program, the more they're prepared to do the tougher asks. Okay, so that's one really key piece of information. Now, a fun activity could be something as simple as a quiz. And it could be a quiz about your business, and if you think about it subconsciously, that's education. So, you're actually teaching an advocate about your business, but in a fun way. So all of a sudden they're getting closer because they understand where you've come from, where you're going. You can do other fun activities around what would you like to see in this product that would make you smile. And you take that information and you feed it back to your product development team. Now, some of those ideas might be really outlandish and really silly, but from those will be the spark that maybe sets you apart from the competition in that product development. And this is where advocates can make a real difference to your business.
I like that. That's the term that came to mind just then was ethically stealthy of what's happening there. Feel free to use that.
Absolutely. Yeah. You
that
need
is
to coin
nice.
that.
So what you're saying there is that you can even use this then to aid with your product development efforts.
Yeah. Absolutely. If you think about all of the things you can do with advocates, you've got this group of hungry kind of people who are in your program who want to do things for you. Okay, that's why they've joined. Okay, and if you think about the things that you can do, if you think about when you put up a web page, for example, and we as marketeers go, this is what our customers want to see. How do we know that? Because we don't ask them, we just put it up. So with advocates, the great thing about them being in your program is you can show them 2 pages and let them say, well, actually, I prefer that one because it's more relevant. It actually works. Whereas the other one is just completely irrelevant. It doesn't actually talk about the business. It doesn't talk about my challenges. It talks nothing about, me as an individual. That's absolutely essential. And I think it's one of the things that as marketeers, we sometimes miss those opportunities. If you make your page tailored enough that it appeals, you'll get more conversions.
100%. I like that. Okay. Is your earpiece okay, by the way, as well? Was there's some funny sound coming?
Yes, it's I've just literally put it back in my ear. I mean, these ears are designed to hold earphones. I mean, come on.
Good. Right. Well, we'll charge on. Hello, by the way, this afternoon to Chris Branch as well. He's giving you a massive thumbs up for what you're covering.
Excellent. Thanks, Chris.
Right here. And there was another one as well. Sorry, we've got to say hello to Lucy Davis. Also, double clappy hand. There we go.
I like that.
I'm an expert with the emoji symbols with my terrible dad-like sounding descriptions. So yeah, double clappy symbol right there. So with regard to getting these off the ground then, B2b customer advocacy programs, what are some of your favorite launch examples of these being brought about?
Yeah, it's, launching the program has been tough. And, we've launched in the middle of a pandemic.
This is your one you're talking about right here for Sage, yes?
Yeah, if you like, yeah.
Yes.
I can talk, personally from that point of view, because,
do.
when we originally put the program forward, it was met with excitement. It was met with, people who said, this is long overdue. It needs to be done. We need to start doing this with our customers. The challenge you're always going to have is, where do you start? How do you launch a program where traditionally, within my business, there's lots and lots and lots of small pockets of advocacy happening all over the world. And of course, Sage operates globally. So the first thing you have to do is work out where's that happening, what's happening, and how is it happening? And then really is the sell to say, we can take control of this on your behalf. We're not trying to take it over. What we're trying to do is establish a better way of doing it and allow the marketers that have been running those programs to take advantage of what we're doing. We're just administering it on their behalf. Mm-hmm. I think when you're thinking about launching a program, you need to understand how many advocates you've got. And that can be a hard thing to find if you don't have the research in place already. Okay, so we're lucky enough that I think most organizations globally these days do some form of NPS survey. So what you can do is you can use that as your starting ground. So have a look at your 9s and 10s on your NPS survey. They're the customers who love you. Okay, they're the ones who love your brand, love your solutions, and will not look at anything else. So they're your low-hanging fruit. Establish how many you've got, and then you can work out where they sit and whether you need one global platform or whether you need to split it out into regional. So that's the first piece around that. I think you asked also about favourite things about launch, James?
That would have been part of it, yes. What are your favourite elements, thank you, of launch examples?
I think we've had a lot of customers come back to us. Okay, so we've only been running our program for a short period of time, but I have had experience of advocacy in other companies in the past of doing exactly the same thing. Mm. So I think the most exciting thing that you get is when you receive comments from customers who say, why is it taking you this long to do this? Because they enjoy the interaction. We had one customer, let me give you an example. We had one customer who came to me and said, you used to be a logo in the top left-hand corner of the screen, but now I feel you're in the room with me.
Oh, blimey.
Can't ask for more than that.
Wow.
It's great. I mean, it's awesome. You're getting genuine feedback from these customers. We had another customer who emailed the CEO and said, this is the best thing ever. Why have you not done this sooner? So, all of a sudden you're starting to get real feedback. You're starting to get customers who say, this is just great. You actually value my business. I'm actually starting to see people. And, my team make a real focus. If a customer emails or messages us about anything at all, we respond, and we will take them to the right person to get their question answered.
That's a nice touch, but also a sincere one as well. I must admit, it drives me mad when you do bother to, I don't know, help in some way, either with comment or something you've noticed, and you don't get a response back. That then turns the otherwise potentially good situation into a bad one. So you're very much then advocating that you take the opportunity and help it realize. Realize its full benefit. Okay, so what then? With that, are the key elements for success in all of this, in launching a successful B2B customer advocacy program?
Oh, yeah, another great question. I think it's determined by what your measurements are going to be. Okay, so from a measurement perspective, you might want to start your advocacy program small. You might just want to go hell for leather and just create a program that has everything in it. I think the main elements for success have to be around that measurement element. Okay, so you have to think to yourself, what do I want to measure and why? And of course, in most businesses, there has to be some form of ROI. Not every single marketing activity will lead to an ROI, or it will lead to an ROI that's very, very difficult to measure. Okay, so if you take into account a review, for example, unless there is a hard and fast metric to show you that a review that's been left by an advocate has actually led to business, you can't tie the two together. So in effect, what you're doing there is they're creating preference in the market for you. And obviously, the more reviews and the better score you have, the higher ranked you'll be. But what you can do if you want to measure success is look at the things that do generate revenue. So references and referrals would be two great kind of advocacy acts, if you like. So references where you're plugging an advocate into a sales opportunity, and then also a referral where, and this again is going to sound really simple, James, it's just asking an advocate if they know someone who might be interested in our technology. It's that simple.
Nice. Oh, and how often would you do that? Going back to the point of it's being certain number of elements of fun, and then for a business case like that, I imagine you do that quite sparingly.
It's an always-on campaign within the program.
Okay.
So it's always there, but we have the choice of promoting that activity or not. Right. when an advocate comes into your program, and this is if you're using a SaaS model, for example, when an advocate comes into your program, they'll be presented with a number of different challenges, and they can choose which ones they undertake. But the referral one sits quite discreetly at the top of the page, waiting for someone to go, I wonder what that is. And they'll click on it and they go, okay, I see, I understand. Now, so far this year, in the short time we've been running this program, we've exceeded the referral target. So we set ourselves a target by the end of this calendar year to have a certain amount of referrals. We are about 40% ahead of that number. So you can see that, again, advocates, even though it's discreet, and I'll give you another example, some advocates choose to do that referral 3, 4, 5 times. So they might have more than one customer. And the reason it's really important is because they operate in peer networks we don't. So if you are in a certain industry, you'll know that your LinkedIn peers will be of that industry. So you have access to those potential prospects. Whereas me, as a marketeer, in my LinkedIn profile, I don't have access to those people. So what you're doing is you're rewarding your advocate for, first of all, giving you a referral, but you're also taking them through the journey as well. And that's really important. The advocate wants to know how far you got with that referral. And that's really important as well. So we create a two-way loop. That two-way feedback loop is really important. So we tell the advocate how far that referral has gone and whether it's been won or lost.
That's very cool. So what you're actually building here from a business point of view is almost like a secondary sales force, but one with with distinctly more influence in the outcome. Is that a way that you look at it?
Absolutely. This isn't an army that we've mobilized. If I go back to numbers, I think we identified somewhere in the region of about 40,000 advocates. And when you think about the number of advocates that you have, not all of them are going to join your program. So that's really, really important to know. And the reason they're not all going to join your program is because they're busy. Okay, they're business owners, they're customers, they have lots and lots of other things in their lives to be doing with. Just because you suddenly pop up and go, hey, look at my advocacy program, I want you to join, is not going to give you the behavior that 40,000 people are suddenly going to go, yeah, I'm going to join your program, John, because it's the best thing ever. So that's a realistic expectation. But say you got 20% of that number and that 20% were engaged. That is a massive amount of advocates who are advocating for your brand in the public domain. And that's why it's so important.
So it sounds like actually the level for achieving success with this is probably, respectfully, quite low in terms of what it needs to actually deliver. Because as you say, you're not going to necessarily have 20,000 screaming fans all signing up to see how many new customers they can sign up by the end of the week. But this it sounds like a nice slow burner, but with good long-term benefits. Long-term, yes, yeah.
Absolutely.
Joe West gave a massive thumbs up as well. So she really liked the point. And in fact, it was the one where you're saying that these people have got access to connections and influence where you and the company don't. So Joe
absolutely,
that concept.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a very fair point.
So tell me, what would be some of the, how did I write it in my notes? What are some of the not so obvious factors which could also lead to greater success?
Oh, goodness me, James, that's another
it's
great
a big one,
question.
Isn't it? Yes.
I think it is a really big question, but I think for me, it's about asking other people honestly what they think about the advocacy program. And I'll give you an example. When I launched the program, we were just talking, I was talking generally to my wife about, what I'd done and what we were doing. And she knows I'd done it at another organization. And I was saying, I really want to get these advocates really involved. And it's really tough at the moment in this pandemic situation. Now everyone's at home, everyone's not doing anything. And she said, why don't you just ask them how they manage themselves working from home if they've never done it, and provide those hints and tips back to your community? And I'm like, what a great idea. So what we did is we created a challenge within our community that said, show us your best home working photograph. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of them were pets, pets and children mainly. And they came back and said, it's my first experience of working from home. And this is generally across our program. Okay. It's my first experience of working from home. And they were coming back with tips like, it's about discipline. It's about, not working 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and not having a break. It's about that balance. And, a lot of people, we had a big discussion going on our forum within the community where advocates were meeting each other and saying, hey, that's a really good tip. I really love that. I didn't think of that. And others were saying, look, you can, claim things like, if you're a company that does any type of occupational health, there is probably something somewhere within the organization that says you should ask to see whether you can get, say, like a backrest or something for your chair. Because if you're working from home for the first time, you're not going to be set up right. So it's little tips like that. And people go, oh yeah, that's so simple, and I just didn't think about it. So within our community, that we're not talking about the work-related stuff. We're not talking about give us a review, give us a reference, give us a referral. We're actually saying, hey, you're working from home. Let's share tips with each other. Let's see how you're getting on. And that was one of the biggest discussions that we had within our forum. And it actually led to some really good connections between people who are still talking now about products they're using and how they can better use them, and what they can do to make their work life better. So the whole kind of not so obvious point is, don't just think about the things that are obvious. Try and do something different. Try and think of these people as human beings as well, and treat them as such, and you'll get a lot more respect.
That's a beautiful example. I do like that. And once again, coming in, well, it seems to me to be very sincere as well, which...
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a beautiful
absolutely.
thing.
I think, I think another one that you could touch on from that, and this is really important, particularly if you are thinking of building an advocacy program, personalities who are running your program. Okay, so we've talked about personalities of customers, what they're looking to achieve, what they're looking to do, but think about the personalities of the people who are running your program for you. They need to be a bit more extrovert. They need to be a bit more fun. They need to be a bit confident, all of those things, that they're not afraid to put themselves front and center, because all of a sudden we've raised ourselves above the parapet, right? So we've got to be prepared to be shot at as well. So you actually need people who exude that confidence. They're energetic, they've got ideas, and they're absolutely 100% customer obsessed. And that's absolutely key. So if you are considering any type of advocacy program, it's essential you get the right type of person to run it.
Wow. This has been such a good topic, and I'm really glad we've dived into this. I think this is really going to strike a chord with a lot of people, because there is pressure at the moment, and rightly so, for B2B marketers to find how else can they set about with the task of generating leads and ultimately helping the wider team win business. And this does sound like a beautiful tie-in with your sales team, which certainly a lot of our guests on the show have been very focused on that. Yes, it's tightly integrated sales and marketing teams are the ones that win ultimately. So
yes.
How's this been received? So specifically with your company, how has this been received at Sage? Then your work and what this is doing.
Yeah, it's again, it's early days, James. We still have work to do. There's a lot of internal communication. We're due to launch hopefully in Europe in the new year. We have launched 2 programs, one in North America, one in kind of English-speaking worlds. They have performed above expectations, which is brilliant.
Nice.
We have more advocates in there than we thought we were going to get, so we're well ahead of target there. All the kind of measurements we put in place were well ahead of the curve, so I'm really, really pleased. The general feedback we've been getting within the business is complete positivity. The mantra that Sage has at the moment for our new financial year is start with the customer. So I'm in the right place, fortunately. But additionally, on top of that, the company really respects what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve. And that's really, really important for us to know that we're doing the right thing. And we hope that as the program progresses and matures and we get better and better at what we're doing, so we'll see even better results coming from it. When this pandemic lifts, one of the things we have said to our advocates is we want to get together with them. We want to meet them face to face. We don't want this just to be an online community. So we're already making kind of moves to kind of book in later in 2021 physical events with these advocates and actually treating them like the VIPs that they are. Making sure that they feel special, that they've had a great time in our program, they've enjoyed being an advocate, but also on top of that, they're going to stay as an advocate and stay with our business.
I like that. Yes, I can see how this is going to pan out. So you're going to, sometime in 2021 then, put on some sort of big appreciation event. The word rave springs to mind. Providing the perfect cover for all of your advocates, because they can just say, I'm just going to that Sage thing, and the MD will go, yeah, sure, fine. And they're like, yes, and have a great big party with you and your other advocates for having brought better accounting to the world. I don't know if that's your slogan, but fantastic. Yes, in-person events, fan of that, and helped with you doing your online advocacy. That's really smart.
Yes.
Hey, I've got to do a big shout to Nick Taylor. Nick Taylor over at Velo. Hey, Nick. He's loving your work as well. Thank you, Nick. And I suppose I should start to wrap things up then in that case by asking you for... Well, no, this is my last question. So what are the key takeaways? There you go. What are the key takeaways that you would like everyone to get from you having shared this with them?
Yeah, another great question. I think the major takeaway for me is, when you embark on an advocacy journey, you have to think that, in some cases, marketing plans may already be fully baked and they will include traditional marketing elements. Mm-hmm. My kind of takeaway is, if you think about what you're doing in your marketing mix, where would an advocacy program sit? Because in most cases, you'd probably find that it has to either replace something within the marketing mix, or it has to top something. So the way we looked at it was, would you rather spend tens of thousands of pounds and dollars on a banner advertising campaign, so that kind of spray and pray approach where you receive fairly few clicks and even less conversions? Or would you rather spend that money developing advocates, helping them know more about your business, asking them to undertake acts of advocacy that actually deliver real tangible benefits back into the business? And that's kind of my takeaway. It's, if you don't have an advocacy program, you should seriously consider it, because we know that advocates love this. Okay, they will do things for you. And I can sit here and it's great to know that I've done this in 2 organizations. So to get to a second organization and be delivering it and be far and way ahead of the average just says that these things do work. And I think my takeaway is, really think about how you're treating your advocates, that you need to become customer obsessed, and it will deliver tangible business benefits back to you.
Beautiful. John, thank you ever so much for coming on the show today and sharing all of this. This has been really cool. I really, really enjoyed it. So live from Portsmouth in the central southern Hampshire, just down the road from me, actually. But, yes, different city nonetheless. Mr. John Ashley, Global Customer Service Manager for Customer Advocacy. Manager for Sage. Thank you very much.
Thanks, James.
Thank you. And if you've enjoyed watching, then please do, if you haven't already, subscribe to the show, www.the414.net, for all your subscription options, including previous episodes. So there we go. The 414 is for you if you're a professional B2B marketer, for you to expand and enhance your professional knowledge each and every week. And sure enough, I speak with some of the greatest and most interesting minds in B2B marketing so that you can do exactly that. Well, there we go. My name's James Rostance. Please do join me here, same time next week.